Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Habari yenu wale hamuelewi Kiswahili. Kwa majina naitwa Masi Gichengi. I work with ActionAid International Kenya and I lead our youth and governance work. So I work with young people, and on this meeting I'm standing in to represent our country director, Madam Susan Otieno, who sends her regards to you all. And for this is that our unwavering commitment to agroecology cannot be underscored as ActionAid. We work so hard with grassroots women. We are grounded, and we are leading a very important campaign that is called Fund Our Future, that you can see with the jacket that I'm wearing on the back, which we call all of you to join us. And one of the critical things that we've been pushing, while we are doing a lot of work in our different civil spaces, as different civic organizations, and as individuals, we also need governments to fund agroecology as a modality that we've seen is working to address food security, and also to put resources in our communities, especially to our women and young people that are hard hit by climate change. So, informed by this, I'm inviting you to join us in a discussion and engage in this forum so that we can learn from each other. We can share our experiences on what we can do better to enhance public financing for agroecology, because it's an alternative that is shaping our nutrition, our security, our livelihood security, and many other conversations that touch on us as Kenyans. Thank you so much, and karibuni sana. Did I take 5 minutes?
Thank you so much, Mercy, for the remarks. I would like, in a special note, to invite the Ministry of Agriculture representative of the Permanent Secretary Tanzania to come and officially open this session.
Habari za jioni. Habari za jioni tena. Sasa niongee Kiswahili au niongee Kiingereza? Sawa, nitajitahidi kuongea Kiingereza. It is a great honor to stand before you today as a representative of the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, Tanzania. My good names are Gospet Chobia. I extend warm greetings from the government of United of Tanzania, and I commend the organizer of the convening this important dialogue on agroecology and the transition toward sustainable food systems in Africa. Tanzania recognizes agroecology as a key approach in addressing food security, environmental sustainability, and climate resilience. Our nation has a rich history of agricultural practices that align with agroecological principles, particularly through smallholder farmers who have long embraced traditional knowledge and sustainable farming methods. However, as we face the challenge of climate change, land degradation, and biodiversity loss, it is imperative that we scale up agroecology as a viable solution for a just and resilient food system. The Tanzanian government is committed to fostering a sustainable agricultural transformation through strategic investment and policy reforms. Some of our key initiatives include: the Ministry of Agriculture has integrated agroecology into our national agricultural policies, promote sustainable land management, organic farming, and the eco-based system approach. Recognize that small-scale farmers are at the heart of agroecological practices. We have strengthened access to finances, capacity building, and extension services to enhance sustainable productivity. Through collaboration with research institutions and universities, we are promoting knowledge exchange on climate resilience, seeds, organic fertilizer, and regenerative agriculture technologies or technique. The government has increased budgetary allocations for this year, and is working closely with the development partners to mobilize resources for agroecology transition through initiatives such as Tanzania Agricultural Development Bank. We are facilitating credit access to farmers engaging in sustainable farming. We are aligning our national policies with African Union agroecology frameworks, including the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CADIP, and AU's Ecological Organic Agriculture Initiative. While progress is being made, we acknowledge the need of greater collaboration between governments, development partners, and the private sector to finance the transition to agroecology. Sustainable investment will not only safeguard the food sovereignty, but also create resilience rural economies and protect our ecosystem for future generations. As we embark on this conference, I urge all stakeholders to strengthen partnership, share best practice, and commit to action that will accelerate agroecology in Africa. Tanzania stands ready to work with regional and international partners to enhance that agroecology is not just an alternative, but the foundation of a truly sustainable agricultural system. Thank you. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much. I think we need another round of applause. So when we come into these spaces and there's commitment from government, then we are making steps into the transition. And I would like to commend the government of the Republic of Tanzania for setting precedence in this discussion. I think from that remark, we are able to understand the direction in which we are going in terms of agroecology for resilient food systems. And our discussions are going to be centered around that topic. And so I will expect that at the end of the day, we will walk out of this room with our objectives achieved, but most importantly is to share learnings, co-creation of knowledge, but also to be able to understand the challenges and the opportunities together with the entry points in terms of shifting the narrative when it comes to policy into practice. So I would like, in a special way, to invite our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker, could you flash? Our keynote speaker is a farmer, an agroecology farmer. And so whenever we talk about keynote speakers, we would expect somebody else. But today, we are moving away from rhetoric into action. And so we want to give the farmers the power to be able to speak into different policy-making processes, conversations around this, but to feel that they are actually at the center of the discussion and not peripheral actors. Because in that system lies the very core of the existence of society. So we are here to listen to our keynote speaker, who is going to speak to us in the language that the crops understand best, in the language that the ecosystem understands best, in the language that livestock understands best, and fisheries or aquaculture. And therefore, when the farmer speaks English, crops will get confused, because the crops that we are talking about, or the system we're talking about, is an agroecological system that looks at the 13 principles of agroecology. And therefore, I want all of you to put your hands together and welcome the people that put food on our tables day and night. And the farmer walks right here, and she will give her keynote in the next 5 minutes. Kindly listen to this keynote. Thank you so much. You're welcome. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Mabibi na mabwana, habari za jioni. Habarini za jioni. Niliyoko mbele yenu ninaitwa Margaret Jobu Malogo, ni Mtanzania, natokea Dodoma, wilaya ya Chamwino, kijiji cha Chamwino. Ni mkulima, pia ni mwenyekiti wa jukwaa la vijana linalojulikana kama Chamwino Youth Forum. Jukwaa hili la vijana tunafanya kilimo ekolojia kupitia elimu ambayo tumeweza kupatiwa na shirika la Action Aid Tanzania ili kuweza kukabiliana na mabadiliko tabia ya nchi. Kwa Tanzania, mabadiliko tabia ya nchi kwa mwaka huu yameweza kutuathiri kwa kiasi kikubwa sana, hasa mkoa wangu wa Dodoma ninapotokea mimi, mkoa ambao unajulikana kwa ukame kwa nchi nzima ya Tanzania. Lakini mabadiliko haya ya tabia ya nchi hayajaweza kutuathiri sisi kama vijana kuweza kukabiliana na mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi, kwa maana tumeendelea kufanya kilimo ekolojia kwa kufuata kanuni za kilimo hai ama kilimo ekolojia. Tumeweza kupanda mazao yanayostahimili ukame kama mtama wa muda mfupi, alizeti, mahindi, karanga na mazao mengine. Lakini pia kupitia shirika la Action Aid Tanzania wameweza kutoa elimu kwa vijana 100 na hatimaye vijana hao tukaweza kuanzisha mashamba darasa ili kuweza kuelimisha jamii umuhimu wa kilimo ekolojia kwa kuweza kukabiliana na mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi kwa vijiji 10. Lakini pia tumeweza kufanya ushawishi na utetezi kuanzia ngazi za chini, kwa maana halmashauri zetu mpaka ngazi za juu, ngazi za kamati ya bunge, ili kuweza kufanya kilimo ekolojia kiweze kupewa kipaumbele kwa mkulima mdogo anapolima mazao yake yaweze kupata soko ambayo ni la uhakika. Lakini pia tumekuwa na ushirikiano mkubwa na serikali ya kijiji kule tunakotokea, kwa maana maafisa wetu kilimo wamekuwa nasi bega kwa bega katika kukienzi kilimo hiki ekolojia, lakini katika kuweza kutoa elimu kwa jamii yetu ili waweze kufuata kanuni za kilimo ekolojia kwa kuweza kupima udongo, lakini kuweza kutumia samadi kwa ajili ya kuweza kurutubisha ardhi. Lakini kupitia shirika la Action Aid Tanzania wameendelea kutujengea uwezo sisi kama vijana kuweza kupaza sauti zetu kwa jamii kuhusu umuhimu wa kilimo ekolojia kwa kuanzisha programu ya Mkulima na Redio kupitia mradi wa TIF ambao ni Transformative Impact Fund. Kupitia kipindi hiko tunaweza kupaza sauti, kutoa elimu kwa jamii, kwa maana hatuwezi kuwafikia wakulima wote kwa wakati mmoja. Kupitia kipindi hiki cha redio tunaweza kusikika sauti zetu kwa wakulima wengi zaidi na kwa muda mfupi, na kipindi hicho tunafanya mara moja kwa wiki. Mwisho, nitoe rai kwa vijana wenzangu, tufanye kilimo hiki ekolojia kuwa kivutio kwa vijana wengi, na tukiangalia vijana wengi sasa hivi ndio ajira pekee inayoweza kumwajiri kijana kwa haraka. Kwa hiyo tufanye kilimo hiki ekolojia kiweze kuwa kivutio, lakini tuweze kulima pia kwa kuweza kujali afya za udongo kwa kufanya hiki kilimo ekolojia, lakini serikali pia iweze kuwekeza fedha katika masuala mazima ya kilimo ekolojia, kwa maana kama shati langu hapa linavyonionyesha, kama serikali na wadau wengine, to increase public finance for agroecology katika benki za mbegu na vitu vingine. Asante.
Thank you so much. So I will be translating, and I'm afraid, I'm afraid I might not say exactly what she was saying. So her name is Margaret Malogo from Tanzania, Dodoma. She comes from Dodoma, the capital city of Tanzania. Chamwino district, Chamwino village. She's a farmer, and she's also the chairperson for Chamwino Youth Forum. As other farmers are affected by climate change, same to farmers from Chamwino, they are severely affected by climate change. And Dodoma, Chamwino, the capital, the center of Tanzania, it's a semi-arid area, so drought is their friend. So to cope with that, they have been practicing agroecology, and they were trained by ActionAid to do agroecology. And ActionAid has trained more than 100 farmers to practice agroecology, and they empowered them to do advocacy at local level to national level, meaning to the parliamentary committees, to demand increase budget allocation on agriculture by looking at agroecology inputs. But also they are collaborating closely with the local government there in Chamwino to promote agroecology, but also to be supported in testing the soil, but also on what organic fertilizer to use for what product. But also they were empowered by ActionAid Tanzania to voice up, to raise their awareness, to reach the community with this good news of agroecology through the community radios. And they have launched their program called Mkulima na Redio, Farmer and the Radio, where they usually weekly, they raise awareness, they talk about agroecology, and they promote agroecology. And lastly, she was calling for increase of public finance on agroecology so that the communities, including these farmers, can be resilient to climate shocks and food security. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Margaret and Arif. therefore ask the comms team to kindly give us the documentary very quickly before we can usher in a panel that is going to be discussing policies and frameworks around agroecology, soil carbon solutions, private sector, but also looking at public financing public financing for agroecology. We will also have discussions around agroecology in practice, but most importantly is the voice of the farmers. We'll also talk about the market systems, and then we'll also have later on an opportunity to present the database. ActionAid works in over 45 countries worldwide, globally, and in East Africa, we are physically present in all the 7 countries except for South Sudan, where we don't have physical presence. So, the team, are you ready? Okay. Yes, sure. So this video is going to give us exactly what has been done by ActionAid. We didn't want to come with PowerPoint presentations, so we wanted to present evidence because for long we've been in this discussion. When we started this journey, I was working for an organization in Uganda, and so I would like to say that we have been part, as ActionAid, we've been part and parcel of the policy processes, especially the national organic policies, the national agroecology strategy, and several other policy engagements within ActionAid countries. And so this video is going to tell us exactly the transition. Here you go.
The Great Lakes region of Africa is home to diverse ecosystems and vibrant communities, yet it faces a growing climate crisis. Changing weather patterns, water scarcity, and food security challenges threaten the livelihoods of millions. In this region, the agriculture sector is at the heart of many livelihoods, with women and young people playing a crucial role in sustaining it. For instance, in the agriculture and livestock sector alone, women account for 86% in Rwanda, 81% in Tanzania, 84% in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and 80% in Burundi. Despite employing the majority of women, they still face limited access to productive sources, agricultural inputs, and technical support, thus making this sector less attractive to women and young people across the Great Lakes region, including Rwanda. To bridge this gap, the resilient communities and vibrant social justice movements in the face of climate change in the Great Lakes region project was launched, with Rwanda among the key beneficiaries. Supported by ActionAid UK, implemented by ActionAid Rwanda, the Transformative Impact Fund, TIF, a 3-year project, is transforming lives across the 5 districts in Rwanda. After just 1 year of implementation, the impact speaks for itself.
Mu by'ukuri mu murenge wa Murundi twari twarabuze imbuto y'imyumbati. Mbere tutari twahura na tifu. Twari dufite icyo kibazo nyine kibiza, hari amazi yaturukaga mu birunga akaza akadutwarira ubutaka.
Muri aka karere kacu ubwo gendemo cyane cyane ndavuga muri aka kagari kacu ka Kibirizi twahuraga n'ikibazo cy'imvura nyinshi, imvura ikaduteza isuri. Byarangiza ibishyimbo byacu bikaba ibihuru, bikabora tukarumbya.
Twahingaga ikibuto bitaga ngo ni igikongoro, cyeraga kigundumutse ku buryo n'amezi 4 yararengaga. Ntikigira umusaruro, imvura yagwa kikazana uruhumbu, ugasanga hari n'igihe utavanagamo n'umusaruro ukanarumbya burundu.
Tifu yaduhaye ubumenyi bwo guhinga imbuto, ugomba guhangana n'ikirere kandi y'indobanure. Mbere twahingaga mu kajagari, ntitwahingaga dukurikije ibipimo, twapfa gucukura tugashira ibirayi mu cobo, ariko ubu twakoze ku mirongo kandi dufite hagati y'ikirayi n'ikindi santimetero 50, hagati y'umurongo n'undi hari santimetero 70.
Twamenye uko duhinga tudakoresheje ifumbire mvaruganda, tumenya guhinga ku murongo kugira ngo dukoreshe n'imbuto nkeya, tumenya guhinga dusigasira ubutaka, tumenya guhinga turwanya isuri, dutera ibiti bivangwa n'imyaka.
Ariko twaje kuza guhura n'uyu mushinga wa tifu, noneho baza kuduha imbuto zitubuwe neza muri labu, noneho turayihinga imbuto yerera ku gihe idatinda mu butaka, ku buryo dufite icyizere cy'uko iyi mbuto yacu izatwungura bitewe n'uko imvura igiye kuzagwa ari nyinshi twarangije gusarura.
Ariko tumaze guhabwa rwa tifu, tukeza izi toni 7, twihajije mu biribwa, dusagurira n'amasoko. Ubu ngubu nta kibazo dufite, tubona n'amafaranga.
Twajyaga duhinga imbuto idashobotse, imbuto igapfa, ariko ubu ngubu twizeye neza ko tuzabona umusaruro dushingiye ko twahinze
zatugeza ku musaruro ushyitse kugira ngo n'abanyamuryango bose baboneho.
Tugiye kubitera tuzabibyaza umusaruro ku buryo mu myaka iri imbere abana bacu bazaba bavuye mu mirire mibi. Ibiti bivangwa n'imyaka nabyo tugiye kubitera ku mirima yacu, kubera ko isuri yatwaraga ubutaka bwera bukagenda. Ndizera neza ko isuri itazongera kubutwara kubera ibi biti tugiye gutera, noneho ubutaka bwiza bukagumaho, tukabona umusaruro tukihaza mu biribwa.
Beneficiaries are not only adapting the climate challenges, but are also leading the way in promoting resilience within their communities. Through knowledge sharing, access to climate-resilient seeds, and socio-economic empowerment, the project is building a strong foundation for a sustainable future, and beneficiaries are now committed to scaling up the acquired knowledge.
Mu bigaragara iyi pipiniyeri ikintu izadufasha ni ukugira ngo igabanye isuri yamanukaga ku musozi itembana ubutaka, kandi isuri nigabanuka murumva ko umusaruro uzarushaho kwiyongera. Ibi biti rero bizadufasha cyane kugira ngo duhangane n'imihindagurikire y'ibihe. Ibi biti bizadufasha cyane kugira ngo duhangane n'imirire mibi, tugaruke mu mirire myiza, kandi ibi biti bizadufasha kugira ngo tubone n'amafaranga.
Urundi guteganya kugura nanje ibirayi ngatera mu murima wanje, ngatera nkurikije bya bipimo batwigishije.
Inyungu ibi birayi bizangirira nukuri nziteza imbere, nzarya mpage, ngaburira abana, mbona amafaranga yo kurihira abana mu ishuri. Nta mwana wanjye uzongera kwirukanwa ngo yabuze minerivare. Urumva ko umugore nzaba maze guteye imbere, nzishyura mitiweli, n'abaturanyi nabo ntibaburara mbifite.
Natwe nk'abaturage twungukiye kuri iri tsinda rikora mu mudugudu, rikorana na Gishonedi ikorana n'umushinga bita tifu, byatumye tugiye kwirukana imirire mibi mu mudugudu ndetse no mu kagari no mu murenge, tukaba tubona imbuto tutazihashye, kuko buriyo kuzihaha bituma hari bamwe bagira ubushobozi buke ntibazihahe, ariko iyo twaziteye bituma tutagira ikibazo cyo kuvuga amafaranga yo kuzihaha.
Ikintu ngiye cyatumye nza muri club y'ibidukikije, nakundaga kubona cyane imirima y'ahantu dutuye irimo iragenda itenguka, kubera ko mu cyaro dutunzwe no guhinga cyane. Iyo imirima yatengutse usanga n'imyaka byajyanye, kandi iyo bijyanye urumva umusaruro uba muke, uba wanagiye, bishobora kugenda biteze. Ariko iyo bateye ibiti bigafata ntago bitenguka.
Nk'ikigo ni amahirwe twagize cyane cyane gukorana na Gishonedi n'uwo mushinga tifu, kubera ko izi mbuto baduhaye ni imbuto zidufasha kurwanya imirire mibi y'abana, cyane cyane ko iyo abana bariye imbuto bakagereka ku biryo bariye baba bariye indyo yuzuye. Ariko nta nubwo ari zo gusa, kubera ko hari n'ibiti birwanya isuri ndetse birinda n'umuyaga twateye hano azengurutse ishuri, ku buryo tubona bizatugirira akamaro kanini.
Intumbero dufite cyangwa se icyerekezo ni uko mu gihe kizaza iyo myumbati imaze gukwira hose nta nzara muri Murundi.
The resilient communities and vibrant social justice movements in the face of climate change in the Great Lakes Region project is more than just a response to today's climate challenges. It is a long-term solution that ensures vulnerable communities, especially women and young people, can thrive despite climate change challenges, paving the way for sustainability and justice for all.
Rero mu by'ukuri turashimira TIFU, turashimira na Gishonedi ubufatanye bwacu, abaterankunga bacu n'ukuri batugiriye neza, kandi tuzakomeza kubahiriza inama baduha.
Ndangije mbabwira ngo God bless you.
I would like us, as we usher in the panelists, could you flash that very quickly? So the discussion around agroecology is broad and requires concerted efforts, but above all, commitment from all stakeholders in ensuring that the policies, the programs, the initiatives that we have support community-led solutions, community-led innovations, and that is the niche that ActionAid brings, because our work centers around supporting young people and women as our core targets because of the different challenges and vulnerabilities that this demographic category faces, especially when we are talking about food systems and food sovereignty. Therefore, next. We launched a report, and this was after several studies. And this report tells us how the finance flows. And so this discussion is going to help us deepen our understanding, but also candidly have conversations around where we want to put finances. And we need to put finances in solutions that are sustainable. And so we discovered in that report, you could go next. Sorry, keep that slide. We discovered in that report that trillions of money is actually taking the wrong direction, and they're fueling the climate crisis by financing industrial agriculture. Okay. And so the banks provided financing to the industrial agriculture companies and sector in the global south amounting to this, US dollars 370 billion over the same year. So the question of the day, therefore, is how much of this can we direct to supporting initiatives in the video that we've just seen? How much investment can we put? How do we design policies to provide an enabling environment for communities that are practicing agroecology to be able to scale it up, to be able to access markets, but also to be able to reduce inputs, especially external inputs? We have also seen that the banks provided an annual average of 20 times more financing to industrial agriculture in the global south than global north governments have provided as climate finance to countries, especially to communities that face the climate crisis. Therefore, agroecology today is not a conversation of ideology, but it is practice. So we need to discuss whether private financing or public financing, we need to discuss how we can support initiatives. If young people and women are, for example, doing a lot of work around organic fertilizers, how can we partner with private sector to ensure that these initiatives are upscaled to meet the market demand? When we started these conversations a few years ago, the question was, can agroecology on small scale feed the bloating population? And we said, yes. Because agroecology provides for diversity, and that's why you see the economic aspect in the video come in. Farmers need quality seed, farmers need money, and farmers need markets and social movements so that they're able to advocate for improved public service delivery. Today, we would like to hear from the panelists the practical aspects of agroecology, and I would like to have the following panelists come in. We'll have Zachary, kindly take your seat. We'll also have, we can clap. We'll also have Mr. Gosbert. Mr. Gosbert, yes, kindly take your seat. Mr. Elias Mtinde is the head of programs, Action-Aid Tanzania. We'll also have Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert is the director of the food program in the World Resource Institute Africa. You're welcome, Doctor. We'll also have Ms. Mercy Gichengi speak to us about women in agroecology. If we're talking about a just, fair, and equitable transition, how do we ensure that women are at the center of this discussion? We will also have Collins Odiambo take up his seat, and he will share his perspectives from experience as a young people leader. He leads a movement of young people, and how and where do they find themselves in the value chain? Do they find themselves on farm or at the end of the value chain? And so this, oh my goodness, why is the panel only men? I'm amending. I would like to invite Miss Elvina, a farmer from Kenya, to come and join the panelists. So, I would like to start with Mr. Zachary. Thank you so much for the great work that you're doing in ensuring that the carbon discussions are taking shape, but also in ensuring that policies, programs are aligned to the aspirations of the East African bloc. I'd like you to weigh in on your expertise, because there have been conversations around agricultural practices that have proven most effective in increasing soil carbon stocks. So could you weigh in on some of the things that you've done as an expert, but also the opportunities that exist, and also how can we be able to accurately measure and verify some of these data and interventions? Somebody will help me with the microphone. Okay. Okay. Yeah, give your name.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Zachary Ikwa, and until December last year, I was working in the East Africa community as a senior climate change officer for the region. But right now, I'm supporting the office of the President of Kenya, especially on matters to do with carbon markets. So, my role is to help position Kenya as a perfect destination for carbon market investment. And of course, these are ambitions that the President is so serious about. So I'm happy to join you all here today to share my perspective, both at regional level, but also some of the experiences that I've witnessed within the carbon market space in Kenya. And of course, to link it with the agroecology as a very important aspect of agriculture, which we all know right now requires a very serious policy focus. So there was a recent research that was done by Soil Atlas, which indicated that 40% of land in East Africa is not productive. just Kenya, but most of the countries in East Africa, a huge part of our export is agricultural nation. But also we do have a growing population that needs to be fed. So apart from the export side of things, we also need to beef up our food security. So in that regard, there's been some policy processes that have been going on at regional level. At ESP, we just recently worked on we are reviewing the East Africa climate change policy, and this is the work we are doing in collaboration with Action Aid, GGI, and other partners. And we believe that in this review process, at least we will give agroecology the voice it deserves, so that when we pursue regional level policy processes, then we get to have a strong link between climate change and agroecology, and also we get to propose the ideal policy provisions that can help ensure that agroecological practices do get the visibility required at regional level. But apart from the climate change review work, we just concluded some work on the NDC framework for the region. So the NDC implementation framework for the region, a huge focus on the East African country was on climate resilience, and of course, a huge focus was also leading on agriculture. And of course, this is also another opportunity for us to do have a voice in which type of agriculture we want to pursue as a region. And I believe due to the 40% degraded land that we have in the region, agroecology also needs to take a center stage. Coming into the carbon market work, most of the agroecological practices are always seen at small scale. But we do have a success, a case study here in Kenya which has been a success, where there's a company that is doing what we call biochar production. And of course, biochar, they mainly do it as for carbon credits, but also to generate a feedstock for organic fertilizer production. So they produce biochar here in Murang'a County in tons, and they combine it with the chicken manure to form organic fertilizer. And this organic fertilizer, they've got to an extent where they've invested in machineries that is turning it into granules. So if you look at it, and you look at DAP or urea fertilizer, they all look the same. But from the recent work that was done by Calvo, indeed this fertilizer is able to increase productivity twofold. And the price is quite cheap. So for about 50 kg, a farmer gets the organic fertilizer for 1,500. This is almost half the cost of the subsidized fertilizer, which is being provided by the government. And of course, the success of this initiative is based on the fact that a lot of the cost that is being subsidized for the farmers is incentivized by the carbon credits there. Yeah. So carbon credits that is obtained from biochar in the carbon markets is always of high quality. Okay. Because when biochar is made, it can preserve that carbon in soil for many years. So they are able to sell at least 1 ton of carbon credit for around $133. That is way higher than it is in the other markets where 1 ton sometimes attracts $4. Okay. But they're able to sell it at around 130, and it is through this carbon credit sales that they get to subsidize the fertilizer for the farmers. So these are some of the initiatives that we are keen to integrate in our policy processes. For Kenya, we have already done our carbon market regulations, and we are in the process of reviewing the carbon trading regulations, which is in the public participation domain. And we believe that some of these initiatives that can help us incentivize agroecology and organic farming practices ought to be given attention in this policy and regulatory document. So this is an area that I believe moving forward we work very closely closely with the Kenyan team here to ensure that agroecological practices are incentivized at least through the carbon credit.
Thank you so much, Zachary. I would like to invite Mr. Gospat to speak to us about policy and regulatory frameworks in place for Tanzania. I know you already mentioned that in your remark, but kindly point us to the financing mechanisms to support the transition. We've already seen that the money is going the other direction. So as the government of Tanzania, what are the financing mechanisms domesticated to support agroecology without heavily relying on external funding? But also we are aware that recently there was the Kampala Declaration. And so we would want to see how do we then ensure that agroecology features in the CAADP strategy as Tanzania. What are some of the critical pathways and mechanisms? So you could speak to us. Thank you, Mr. Gospat. Over to you.
Strategies, programs, which have some elements that supports the agriculture. Mentioning the national agricultural policy, national environment policy, national forest policy, and the others. Also, we have some strategy. In the year 2008, we launched National Ecological Agriculture Strategy, which is now after the framework for agroecology practices in Tanzania. Although there are these policies which have some elements of supporting the agriculture, the financing is still a challenge. Through the government budget, the money is channeled to the conventional way of agriculture. In Tanzania, we have a subsidy program for inputs and fertilizer, like seeds and fertilizer, in a conventional way. But and some of the money is going to agriculture, some of the activities of the strategy. There is no direct budget for the agroecology activity or practice of, but there are some money from the budget which are going to some activities in relation to agriculture. So the budget is not enough, and is not allocated to agriculture, but there are efforts which are underway to the industry, the fertilizer industry, when the rules of agriculture come to contact, we have to focus on organic fertilizers, which can be used, which can be available to farmers, and these organic fertilizers can be put under the subsidy program so that they can be able to access, have to access such a low price. the funding is through collaborative with partners, donors, organizations, which are special do the capacity building and giving some credit to more money. So to say, there is no enough money, or there is no monetary decision to direct to agroecology.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like you to pass the microphone direct to Mercy Gichengi. You've heard. And I would like you, Mercy, to speak about where are the women in the transition. And then when you are done, you'll give the microphone to the farmer to tell us their lived experiences and what they've been doing, but also their challenges and their asks as a farmer, briefly, so that we can have the audience as well give us feedback and ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Allow me to speak in Swahili. How many people can speak Swahili? I am now very conflicted. And I think, once in a while we need to move things a bit so that we look lively. I know the issue around women is a very tough conversation, especially when it comes to financing for agroecology and other agricultural processes. We know very well globally, when it comes to capital for any hard investment, the women are still lacking. Either because even when they want to take credit to run their own investment, they still don't have the required, qualifications for them to access financing, either both private, public, and when you talk about public, right now I'll talk for the government of Kenya and what is there even at the government level. We have so many affirmative action funds. But what happens is that the requirements within the country to access some of these things is too rigorous, too procedural, and the thresholds that are set leave some of these people out. And currently, for instance, for you to be taught how to access them, you have to contribute your own money for the different technical people to train you. But then at this time, this woman is still left behind, and you're telling them, for you to access these funds, can we bring some money? Can you come sit together and then add money so that we train you? And those are becoming key bottlenecks that are leaving our women behind. And not just talk about women, because while I said I work with young people, I work with young women. In the cornerstone of talking about women, then the young women is even more lost. Because in terms of land, when we talk about who owns the land for agroecology, while we're making a lot of food, a lot of progress, still, who owns the land in the world? Talk about that woman at the bottom of the chain. Then talk about that young woman. So the young woman and the woman are still lacking in terms of land. And even as we say, we want to finance agroecology. So how many of these women will be able to produce? And how many of them have control? Because there's a lot about land in terms of control, access, and control. They might not have access because there's land in their family. But who controls it? Yeah? Who controls it? Yeah? How many of it's the father? Some of us are saying, you can say, who controls the land in your country where you come from? Random. Who is controlling? It's the men. And we are not saying it's bad for men to control land, but we want women to own equal land so that when we talk about agroecology, and we saw a very good video that has been shown here in the 4 countries that TIF is implementing. Who are these that we are targeting? It's women, because we want to put investments, we want to give them capacity, and not to say that they don't have capacity. It's a bad assumption. They say they have traditional ways of working. We are only enhancing what they have been doing so that they have higher production and they are more resilient. So we are not saying they have zero nothing. We want to come and complement what they are doing and not take it away and say we are teaching you new methodology. We only say, mkitaka to produce more, lazima mzingatie A, B, C, D. na hizi ndio zile rasilimali mlizo nazo, kwa hivyo mnaweza zitumia kujisaidia zaidi. So these are the investments and the resources you have. We can only help you to exploit them better so that you're able to gain. So when we talk about women Sheila, they're still missing in the equation. And that's why as ActionAid, we are a women rights organization. We are unapologetic about women. Even when we talk about anything, we are unapologetic about women, and now we are also focusing on young people because they're still missing in the equation. And we need to mobilize them, and there are different movements so that they also adopt agroecology. They are the biggest workforce we have in Africa.
Okay.
Yeah? And I'm sure colleagues will pick that on that.
Okay.
Yes. And
Thank
I want to bring Elvina. Yes. Elvina works with is part of our local partners. Sometimes we say we're working, but we don't work directly. We also work with local partners. And the local partner that ActionAid has worked with is called Kilifi Citizen Forum. And that's where they've mobilized different young women groupings so that they can run their own agroecology farms. So Elvina is going to tell you about herself and the work she's doing with other young women. And she's the woman that we work with. She's not the woman that is up here. She's the real woman at the very bottom. Because then if we don't equip them with resources, then they're not able to come up. And I think, yeah, welcome. And I will translate for her. So, Elvina, she's given her three names. Elvina and three other names, but I will call her Elvina with the first name. So she's a smallholder farmer in Kilifi. She first got to hear about agroecology from a meeting that she went to actually, but that was directly done by our partner, Kilifi Citizen Forum. And from that meeting, they learned about farming. And she started as one person because we were modeling. She started as her as Elvina. And then Elvina, the reason why it was hard for others to take up farming in their locality is because of harsh climatic conditions and their homes are far from the rivers. So it was hard to convince them and it's hard to do farming. So she came for another meeting And during this meeting, she got maize, she got mchicha, amarantha species, and then she got mabinda. Mabinda is okra, seedlings. And she went and started the farming. Then she came for another meeting still, and this time they were taken to an agroecological farm called Migombani, that is in Mombasa, for more learning, so that she could be able to learn on how agroecology is modeled. Now that she had started doing something, and there was a lot of commitment. And from there, she was able to learn more and got more information and knowledge on what to do, and went back home. But this time round, when she went back, she wanted to get more people. So she mobilized another group of young women like her, and they started now farming as a group. So currently, that's what she's doing.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to, okay? Okay, sure.
So beyond what she's done, I also forgot to say that they were given more investment. So Elvina was getting a challenge with water because sometimes there's no rain and it's quite dry. So she chose to dig a small well, a shallow well. And she was already, because one thing I failed to say is that through her other sales, when she said she was being able to produce enough food, that she's able to take some to the market and also sell some, and she's able to pay for school fees for her baby back at home. So with this and the savings that she was doing in a small chama that embraces VSLA, it's in a hybrid of a self-help group and a VSLA. So she was able to save and contract a local plumber to come and help and buy some cement to come and help on the shallow well. But the shallow well, because of limitation in terms of capital, and we had already given her some cash transfer to support her, she dug it by herself. So she will do the hard labor of digging the shallow well, but she needed somebody to come and, make it more presentable for fetching and more, not presentable, to just preserved. Yeah, so she dug it. Now she can confidently say that that shallow well has water that they're using.
Thank you so much. I think she deserves a round of applause. I would like Collins, very quickly. Our time is fast spent. Collins, I just want you to weigh in on young people and their role in this transition, especially in accelerating food system transformation through agroecology. Where are the young people when it comes to employment, the green jobs, and where are they in the value chain? Very quickly, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sheila. Hi, everyone. If I say Harambe, you say youth power. Harambe! Come on, Harambe! So as we look into the future of our food systems, but also the health of our planet, but also in the region, I think as you really brought it very well. I think a critical question we really need to ask ourselves is, why is it crucial to engage young people when it comes to agroecology as a movement? And I think no one showcased that better than Margaret, our keynote speaker. And I think based on what she actually brought out there, I think you could clearly see that young people really have the potential, they really have the drive, and really to drive the changes that are really needed when it comes to transforming agriculture in the 21st century. Because they are our next farmers, right? They are our leaders, they're innovators. And I think it has also come out very, very clearly here. They really have the power to rethink and not just rethinking colleagues, but it also to reshape, but also revitalize the farming systems that are both sustainable but also just. I think young people, and I don't know how many young people are here. And when we talk about young people, according to the African Youth Charter, we're talking about 18 and 35. So if you're 18 and 35, can you raise your hand? If you're 18, yeah. So at least we have young people in this room. So young people really bring fresh ideas, new perspectives when it comes to agroecology. And when talking about agroecology, let's also look at agroecology as a movement, right? You know, so when we need those fresh ideas, when we need new perspective, but also the passion for innovation, you know, we only get that through the young people. Agroecology, I think also from what you've also seen in the videos that have been showcased here, agroecology really thrives when we blend traditional knowledge, but also modern solutions. And those modern solutions is what young people are bringing to the table. That's what young people are bringing to the movement. So I think as the future of agriculture, and I think this is something that we've seen from different case studies. Young people really have the tools, they have the creativity, and really the energy. You know, you could hear it from Margaret herself, right? So that energy is really there to merge both the best of both worlds. So we're not talking about traditional, but we're also talking about modern solutions. So you can only get that when we really critically engage young people in agroecology. Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you so much. For so many years, we've had challenges where the first page of any agriculture policy, you know, portrays somebody really miserable with a handhold, dirty, and then we told our government that, do you know what? Let's make agriculture attractive and put the first page a young person holding apples, because it's not a bad thing to go into agriculture, so that we're able to attract young people. And so this is very important, especially when we are talking about a movement that is going to spur the transformation. We need young people, we need deliberate innovations and research, but above all is financing some of these innovations that young people, and they're there. If only Collins had time, he would tell you a million of them. But I want to invite Doctor, there's a conversation around natural resources, around agroecology, but also most importantly is that agroecology centers, it's so diverse. And I would like, from a civil society perspective and from your experience and from your work, I just want you to weigh in on how these strategies can be applied to achieve the change that we want. And the change is it should be sustainable, should be socioeconomic, should be political. As a civil society actor, what do you see, and would like you to weigh in on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. My name is Dr. Peters. I'm here in Africa. And going back to your question, to your main program, I think you are now, going back to the question you have asked, and the story of the women here is quite interesting. I think that's what allows us and gets us motivated to be able to do what we do. Now, a key thing that many civil society organizations are doing is supporting not just civil society organizations, but ministries, also supporting implementation, including private sector entities, also supporting implementation of these global conventions. So, but I'll give a perspective of that implementation of the global convention that we might want to consider. One is that we are always talking about soils are not healthy, our food system is broken, some people are going to say it's dead. If you have such a situation, then what it means, if you are so sick, it means that somebody needs to analyze, know exactly what is to be done. So unfortunately, many of us go assuming that we know what needs to be done, start implementing intervention, and the result is that we are not achieving the kind of results we wish to achieve. So at WRI, one of the things we would like to have we are offering, because we don't work directly, we work with local organizations, can offer our capacity of more than 40 years to do analysis of what are the best practices. We call them best bet. If you were to start a business, what is it you must do? Or if as a local organization is to support farmers, and we have experience of doing analysis, of doing mapping, we can only help by saying, okay, let's do a participatory process of allowing farmers and through their data available data to tell us what is it that must be done in this field. Without us just coming and saying, okay, we have a curriculum. So that is the first thing that we are doing, and it's not just farmers, we're also doing it to SMEs. SMEs are very key to the transition. SMEs are doing bioinput production. One actually we are supporting 20 SMEs to provide the technical capacity exchange so that they are able to learn from others, especially in visit Kenya, to learn on how they can be able to scale up the production. So that data is important. The other part of the data of learning is with government. The key question I had in this conference again and again is what evidence do we have that the agroecology practices that we're implementing are delivering the kind of outcomes that we want to achieve, both ecological, economic, but also social. So we are supporting governments, and we are beginning with Kenya and Rwanda to be able to measure productivity and integrated productivity in farms. Because agroecology is not just maize, or in the case of Rwanda, maybe cassava or potato. It is within a farm, what is the integrated productivity within a farm? And we are hoping, just like some of you might know about the global forest watch, which is widely used, we are in the process of developing an African yield watch, integrated yield watch, that will say in this area, these are the, and we have started to do the crop mapping. There are 11 different crops, these are the ratios, and you can monitor their productivity over time and have a dashboard which tells you this is the productivity. Over time, then if you look in all the different organizations, you can end up to a situation where you can actually tell government very clearly that these are the changes that we are seeing. So that is the support also that we're giving up. And so that whole package of implementation, private sector, SMEs, local organizations that are doing implementation, is indeed going to be critical. Allow me to just speak to two other things. Finance. We are implementing finance, talking because we mobilize finance. But we have realized farmers like the winners, all groups might not be able to access. We allowed that one program to provide small farmers $5,000 grant. But of course, grants are not going to be available all the time. So WRI has worked with impact investors to start what we are calling reducing impact fund for Africa. Learning from what we have been doing over the years, registered in Rwanda, but acting for Africa. And the idea is that if a farmer group of 10 women that has been got $5,000 to start, they need to reach a point where now they should be able to go for a loan. They cannot be able to get a loan from a bank. They need to be able to get a loan that has got as low interest rate as 3%. So we are trying to convince impact investors that the impact we are looking for, women empowerment, ability for women to earn incomes and other revenues. So invest in this without having to make a lot of money. And hopefully this is starting to be rolled out and coming out going forward. So lastly, policy. I know the government officials here, but policy has many dimensions. I just want to pick on one: standards and certification. And we have learned this, that SMEs, very small units that are trying to do bioinput production, are really struggling with standards and certification. And so one of the things we are doing, and we would like to encourage all of us to push this transition, is to work with governments, have a participatory process where SMEs engage, and what is it that they need, what needs to happen, what support do these people need for them to get their products certified so that they are able to be.
Thank you so much. Certification, standards, agricultural zoning or agroecological zoning. We have farmers that are doing so well. Then they take their products to the market. We all know how it is intensive to produce an organic product, and then take it to the market, and it is bought at the same price with the other one that was that was produced inorganically. So farmers slide back because they're not seeing the economic value versus the cost of production. And so we need to begin to ring fence some of these areas in terms of our discussions, but also policy implementation, so that we have farmers, developing the appetite to go into organic production. That said, Mr. Elias, I just want you to speak to some of the very critical challenges, but also strategies and opportunities that exist in this sector as a civil society actor. What are the challenges? The challenges can be layered at local level, but also at the level of civil society, because your implementers, like Dr. said, there's certain challenges in achieving the transition. But also, what are the strategies, very sharp strategies and opportunities that exist, so that we can give our audience, there could be questions before we launch the community database that is going to provide evidence. And I want you to speak about also issues around knowledge management. They're saying there's a lot of information and it is scattered. Everyone is doing a lot. There are 100 civil society organizations doing a lot, but nobody knows where there's a centralized database to be able to track where we began and where we are going. Over to you, Elias.
But we see our government, the way they are importing fertilizer and other inputs, using huge amounts of funds. These are the public funds. Of which we think people will really work and CSO influence our government to shift this funding from harmful practice to sustainable practice will help to improve the quality. But that is not happen. If you talk to the government, they are asking, do you think Agroecology is going to teach Tanzania 7 million people in Agroecology? So that is the challenge. But you have different examples of smaller farmers, of young people who have practiced this approach, and we see the way it has improved security, but also it has improved nutrition security in the household. So these are the challenges we are facing. But we see there's an opportunity. We are talking about biopesticides, we are talking about organic fertilizer, which is going to if we empower young people with their groups, with their organization, with the knowledge and the skills, to develop this biopesticides and organic fertilizer, for them also to implement.
Thank you so much. As I get to the audience, somebody would help me with the microphone. If there's any question, a comment, we'll spend a few minutes before we launch the database, and also give an opportunity to a delegate from DRC. From yesterday, the conversations around agroecology in emergencies and crisis is a bit silent. And we know what's happening in DRC, but that doesn't mean we don't have smallholder farmers practicing agroecology. So we will hear from the delegate that is representing DRC, agroecology in emergency situations. Yes. Who has the microphone? Be sharp with your question or your comment. Thank you.
Thank you for the I just wanted to find out, looking at the video, and I saw the convention that actually has supported in Rwanda, and it's really exciting to see how it's been beneficial to the farmers, the working farmers. Talking about seed, I heard that actually it's providing scientific evidence, and that's improving harvest. I'd like to know, do you see propagate after the farm harvest? And if they are improved, we move on to the fashion, because we see the previous ways that agricultural players have hijacked the industry. So a bit more transparency on the use of that.
Thank you. Next question.
My name's Pamela Nasumuyu from Bungoma. I heard the story about the farmers, the way they are doing that agroecology. My question goes to, are you going to work only with for us all in 47 counties, or just only, I think, 3 or what? Because I've seen my farmer, next farmer from Makueni. What about the other counties? Are you going to work with them? Because out there, for the young people, we are just idle, some of us. We don't know what to do. We are just for some sideways. But for this action the way I've seen it, it will be exposed to another sub-counties or another counties. They'll work more than the way you have to experience. Another question goes to, according to that pictures that you have just intervened for the clip, I have not seen the PWDs. If you are not going to include those PWDs, they'll find themselves that you have just already neglected them. They will see that stuff. We are not just in this world, we are just in another world. My opinion is that let us also include them so that we can work with them. If you see the things of just seedlings, bed seeds, they can also work for them. If we are going to do that seedlings, they can just do the soil for packaging. Even if they are just seated, they can also use that to work to empower them so that also they can achieve what we are just also achieving as the youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's keep our comments very brief. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Victor Australia, West Africa, and happy to be on this program today. My question is going to my brother, and I think it represents the government, and also.
Which one exactly? On a court?
Yes.
Okay. The president. Yes, next to. Okay.
After the second.
Okay. Zach. Yes.
He did mention there are entities providing organic fertilizer and selling at a very low cost that the inorganic fertilizer not so. And he did mention as well that government is importing inorganic fertilizer. My question is, what is the commitment of government in promoting agroecology? question is, this entity that is producing this organic fertilizer, what are the mechanisms that they are using that the far and hard-to-reach areas are having access to this organic fertilizer? Thank you.
Thank you. The next person with the microphone, kindly. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Neva Mwambela. I'm a researcher and in private sector working on biofertilizer and biopesticide. So my question today, after hearing from the panelists, it seems the organic sector or the agroecology is neglected. We are discussing a lot, but investment on this is left behind. My first question is from ActionAid or any other organization. What is the support for these small SMEs that are dealing with organic fertilizer or biopesticides? This is lagging behind. We'll continue singing the same song. When it comes to subsidies, for instance, I have a biofertilizer and it is working. It has been a notion for a long time that biological inputs are not working. But from research perspective, we have done research. I have 7 years dealing with biopesticide and biofertilizer. The research has proven that they are working very well, increasing yield, and also safe for human and environment, and they are sustainable. But we are still being told lies with these chemical inputs that these are not working. This is not true. But what is the commitment for our government starting from Tanzania? Because we have this and they are working, but no subsidies for these organic inputs. What is the commitment? I can start from Tanzania where I'm coming from. Most of subsidies, whether it is pesticide or fertilizer, is only on chemical.
Yes.
These people dealing with agroecology, always we are singing the same song, no inaction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Subsidies on NPK, I read recently, and technically that means that we are opening the market for inorganics, and there's going to be a problem with soil when governments are subsidizing inorganic fertilizers like NPK, and we know what NPK does. DAP and urea. Over to the next speaker.
Yeah, okay, my question goes to the government official from Tanzania. During his presentation, he said that there's no direct funding allocated to agroecological practices. But now, since Tanzania has launched the National Organic Agriculture Strategies, what are the plans now to fund this, the implementation of this strategy going forward?
More two hands, and then we can give the panelists an opportunity to respond. Some are comments. You don't need to respond to everything, but I want Doctor to speak to certain things because they require a lot of science to explain. Thank you.
I'm
money during the start of farmers to the farmer. And the second time is professionally. We have very, very good solutions and very happy. Very good things are coming in place, knowledge are coming. Looking at the fund, I saw the transformational impact fund led by Anthony, very, very nice one, and so many others when you listen to the WRI. And more solutions are coming. Should we advocate for shifting funding to not only that process, or should we continue trying to make ourselves other?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Our last question so that we get to the, yes.
Thank you very much. I come from Malawi. I work on agroecology landscape transformation, facilitating processes in the community. I've got two comments. First question is to our government colleagues. We are here discussing about agroecology since yesterday. Last year we were doing the same when we had the conference #1 for Eastern Africa. We are always talking about government. The people who sit here, like the two gentlemen, are they our ambassadors? Are they getting whatever we are discussing? Are they going to deliver that to the governments? Because this government seems to be a monster somewhere. So whatever we are doing should go there. Yet the governments are representing us. So who can these forums channel the information that we get through to reach our governments so that they respond to the works that we are doing? Secondly, I wanted to say that agroecology, at least for Malawi, is still at experimental stage. You don't see a lot of big work being done and showing results because of the funding. These are just isolated pockets of activities. How best can we, within the resources that we have, probably even through the government funding, we have the cash transfer where the governments are spending money on some agroecology-related activities. Like now in Malawi, they are financing water harvesting structures, but people have to be paid money for that. So it's not sustainable. The subsidies, and if there's a crisis, the governments release money to buy food. So can't we find windows through these funds to start testing some agroecological interventions, at least some larger scale, so that the government can prove that these things work or they don't work? And the research, why can't they also do some research deliberately to prove that agroecology doesn't work? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you share with us that how do you manage to involve the youth, because it's a challenge at the ground to involve the youth and even using them as advocates for
Thank you so much. Collins, you will share that very quickly. You will actually start with that question.
Yeah,
the last
I think,
person.
Thank you all. My question is in line with what my brother asked about the carbon credit.
Please, your name?
I am Ambrose Bokari Kane. I also came from Sierra Leone, West Africa. It took me 24 hours to arrive here.
Oh, you're welcome, Karibu.
Yes, so the climate change we know is impacting all sectors of life, and agroecology has both the solution to climate change and food insecurity. But whilst agroecology is providing solution to this climate change, the benefits or the system set in place at global level so that people can benefit from climate change and also continue to practice good adaptation measures are not being possible towards the smallholder farmers. I tried it in Sierra Leone. It was not on the agriculture perspective. We tried to pilot community forest, working with communities, so that they can benefit from carbon credits whilst they are managing the community forest. But I tell you here, the bureaucracies, the systems, the technologies everything is just really, really difficult for smallholder farmers, for small group, which is really, really frustrating. So how are we going to ensure which system, which strategies are we going to put in place to ensure that smallholder farmers or people, individuals practicing agroecology that are removing carbon, both above ground carbon and below ground carbon, they are storing it, are also benefiting from this global carbon credit. It's really, really a challenge.
Thank you so much. All agroecological actors that are here, agroecology requires patience. And so let's hold on a little bit. We started a bit late. We have a few minutes to end this. But there's a reason as to why we are here. And so I would like the panelists to respond just quickly. Some are comments, some are questions directed to you. Respond, and then we go to the next. Thank you.
Habari. I'm going to respond to, I think, 2 questions about subsidy and plan for financing strategy. Tanzania has, as I've said, they have a strategy as a national ecological agriculture. It has 12 interventions, and that is something which you cannot do in a day or in a year. So we have narrowed down from the 11 interventions to 6, and these 6 these interventions are monitored by the committee, led by the chairman from the Ministry of Agriculture and the secretary from the Tanzania Movement for Agriculture, Movement for Organic Agriculture. So we are going to start with inputs, and then capacity building. So from there, and then we go and finish the rest of the interventions. And from that point, about the inputs, as I've said earlier, the government is working on with the industrial companies, inorganic companies, to formulate NPK for organic agriculture. So after this formulation have been is ready, the government will put on a subsidy program. I think that will help the farmers who are in agroecology or organic agriculture to have those inputs as seed or fertilizer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tanzania is taking very steps. There's commitment. So the work
Yeah, I want to respond to my brother from South Africa. He asked 2 questions. One, on why is the government not focusing on the organic alternative when it's very promising? Well, of course, for organic fertilizer to really compete the inorganic one, there are certain parameters that have to be met, okay? One of them is that the scale of production, when you're dealing with millions and millions of farmers in a country, are you able to produce enough so that it can meet their needs? And there are recent breakthrough in that regard, where I just told you about the biochar alternative. The biochar alternative, which is used as a feedstock for this organic fertilizer, is being made from madenge, the prosopis species, which is invasive. And in Kenya, we have almost 1.2 million hectares of land that has been invaded by this species. So it's really easy to get feedstock for biochar production. And as we continue getting into this, I believe we'll be able to meet that capacity. So a huge part of it, I believe, is on the demand and of course the ability to meet it. When it comes to logistics and access, they are packed in 50 kg bags and it's easy for them to reach to, as far as possible. But for farmers who might need it in, areas that are far away from the manufacturing location, they might incur a bit of a slightly higher cost for, transport. But all in all, it's still reaching as many as possible. Then number two, on the carbon guy who says carbon is a false solution, it's debatable. But from what I've witnessed, especially for the biochar side of things, it's very transformative. So if you see just one company using invasive species to produce over 5,000 bags of organic fertilizer in a month, then you wouldn't say that this is a false solution. So this has been proved, it really works. And of course, for the organic benefit combined with the carbon credits, then really brings the hybrid together well, because you get investors who are interested in carbon, but also you get investors who are interested in the organic component of it. And then the role of government from Malawi, I think it depends on how conferences are organized. I've been to some conferences where a session like this, we take notes, and from the notes that we take, we probably work on a decision paper which says this is what the government should do, this is what the CSOs should do, this is what the development partners should do, the corporate sector, and so on and so forth. And I believe the good ideas that we've shared here, from the need for standardization of organically produced products, those are some of the things that we need to pick up and follow on for action. And I believe we'll not just be talking and letting that go.
Yeah, I just want to go quickly. There was a question on how are we supporting these emerging SMEs who are dealing with the biopesticides and biofertilizer. For us as ActionAid, what we do, we support them, especially to know the solutions that we know there is a gap in terms of this chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides. So there is an opportunities to go through biopesticides and the bio fertilizers. So what we have been doing just to give them awareness, but also to model this kind of biofertilizer, but also biopesticides. We model them, and then we analyze how are they working. And then once we have analyzed that they are working through supporting them on the farm applications, now we link them with the farmer, with the government. We know for us in Tanzania, we have 10%, where 4% is supposed to go for the women, 4% for youth, and the 2% for people with disabilities. So we link them with the government so that they can access these loans so that they can scale up these innovations. Yeah.
Great, thanks a lot, Sheila. I think there was a comment from Bungoma around youth and next generation of leadership. And maybe it just goes back to what I mentioned when we started. I think it's really, really important, and I just want to emphasize on the importance of engaging young people, especially if we want to transform future farming. So it's really important that we engage young people, because again, as I mentioned, I think young people are critical when it comes to advancing agroecology. As an example, because look at the innovative ideas that young people come with. But it's also about not looking at young people as a homogeneous group, but actually looking at young people as a very, very diverse group and reaching young people where they are. Very many times, I think organizations wait for young people to reach them, and not really them reaching young people where they are. And in ActionAid, we do that. We have our youth-led spaces in more than 30 countries, right, across the world, right? Some of them are actually in refugee camps, some of them are really in communities, right? So really looking into what are those innovative ideas that young people bring, but also how do we finance those ideas? And again, this also goes back to the government, right? There's lots and lots of ideas, innovative ideas that young people come up with, but the issue is really around financing. But it's also about, Sheila, it's also about how we connect the young people, both at the local level, at the national level, regional level, all the way to the global level. Because we have very many networks where we can actually link some of these young people right from the village level to the national level. It's also about how we share strategies that young people actually bring. It's also about the knowledge, but also the experiences that young people really bring to promote agroecology. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I'll be very brief, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the kind of like frustration by a sister from Bungoma, from Tanzania, that the bio inputs are not being supported, interventions are not reaching them, government is not there to receive the information. To say that there is something already starting to happen. It is very baby steps. The transformational transition is at very baby steps. There are certain things that we can leverage on. For example, on bio inputs, giving an example of Kenya, they have formed an association, Kenya Input, Organic Input Manufacturers Association or something, in support from GIZ. And that has allowed them to access the National Cereals and Produce Board facilities and start to distribute. So those are baby steps, and they can actually move to something bigger. Perhaps for the kind of, and I know in Bungoma, the organizations, Practical Action has something that they are doing there and a few others, but as I've said, maybe the institutionalization of this support to county governments so that they can also, because they are the ones with a much bigger responsibility, needs to happen sooner. And that's the kind of support that they need to be given. How do governments receive the information? In Kenya here, we have the Intersectoral Forum for Agroecology and Agrobiodiversity, which government is part of that initiative, and these discussions happen there, and that has allowed even the policy to be passed and some of the changes that we are starting to see. We are also supporting another initiative, multi-stakeholder platform in Rwanda, and the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Environment are co-chairing that platform, and the discussions happen. So government can actually receive information through that. So there is the beginning, something has started. The momentum can only peak, and we can support that along the way. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I think that's a question. If you don't have, there's a question here.
I think.
Actually, the power system approach. And so we don't distribute it. We support communities to establish community management. And so we do participate in that way to improve the business system of all kinds. And so that's thank you.
There was a question with Pamela. Thank you, Pamela. So she asked about where we are because there was a conversation that we're in Makueni. So we're in Kilifi, but ActionAid works in 26 counties. And we're also in Makueni. And it's unfortunate that we might not be present everywhere, but where we are, we work with the communities, we co-create. We do not go and, appear and tell our modality of working. We co-create and support community-led alternatives. So it's what that they want to be helped in or supported in, that's where we support as an organization. And in terms of PWD, and I will give my colleague Lucy, while seated there, can add more value, but also to note that while they are not present here where you're seeing, we look at intersectionalities of women and young people, we bring them in their diversity. So we work with them in all their intersectionalities, religion, ability, sexuality, and all these other things that they identify as in their own respective spaces. So by the virtue that they are not here, does not mean that we don't work with them. We work with them where possible, and where it's not possible, we work with their caregivers. And one of the things that we've done, especially for young people, we also have made deliberate affirmative actions, where a young person threshold of age is 35, will add 5 years for a person with disability, so that their age, because there are dynamics that leave them out of interventions beyond the youth age. So we also add extra years to ensure that we reach them and also put them somewhere else. Lucy, do you have something to add?
Maybe from now, she will be able to this is the database. Everyone is asking which evidence. Actually, in support for Denmark. Yes. So, so we have there actually documented examples of community-led initiatives in 9 countries. We've actually made the map across Africa and Asia. And so, these community-led initiatives, oh, sure. You're welcome. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot.
So actually, community-led alternative initiatives across 9 countries in Africa and Asia. And these projects are often led by women, young people, and represent part of what a Southern-led just transition could look like. And these initiatives were led by actually Denmark. And so we are looking at how issues to do with rights, investments, and supporting public and private investors to direct money where we have real solutions and not false solutions. And so we developed a database. Okay. So, no. Okay. So this is the database. And when you go to this database, you'll be able to see cases that have been documented. Yes. So these are cases from Bangladesh, cases from Zambia. We have cases from Liberia, Kenya. So when you click on Kenya, it will tell you what we've been doing. No. Yes. It will tell you how the successes have been documented in Kenya, and a whole write-up on food security, biodiversity, agroecology initiatives, and how this is turning around the lives of smallholder farmers. You can actually click on Tanzania and get information about Tanzania. And when you go just right, top corner of the database, you will get different publications. Actually, recently we launched a report of who owns who, and that is why the discussion around carbon is very sensitive until when people understand exactly what they are picking up from this. Less, there's a certain perception that communities and people have. And so that is why capacity building and awareness is very important, including agroecology. We go to the text of agroecology and organic agriculture. I can see some people in the room that were part of that discussion. For 14 hours, we were discussing the difference between organic agriculture and agroecology. And people are saying you're coming to mix us up. And you know, doctor, that whereas all are looking at sustainable farming systems, the difference is the other one is a subset of this. And because agroecology is wider, inclusive, and more of a social movement. And so there was this, for 4 years, we're discussing either organic agriculture or agroecology. And so when you look at all these publications, it gives you what we have been able to do globally, but with more focus on the global south. And so you will also find, you will find in this database, that's where you will put at the end contact. So we are improving this database. And we would like to see your feedback. Just give us your name, your email, and then the message. How do we improve How do we improve participatory research and development of local initiatives? This is very critical for this sector. And so I would like at this point, later on we'll share this. I don't know how the IT team will share. The link will be provided. Kindly check that database, get stories, get learnings from other countries, but also get to know why agroecology is taking shape in global discussions, and also how best we can improve this database and evidence collection. You can actually use some of the publications that actually has done globally to be able to build a case around agroecology, but also around a just and fair transition. And so that we move away from alarmism, because the sensitive society organizations are just alarmists without a lot of data. There is data that can provide a benchmark for which we can design interventions and so on. With that said, by the people. So you can just go to climate solutions by the people, and then you will be able to access that website and pick seven lines, very critical lines here and there. And I would like to invite Victor from DRC to tell us about agroecology in project context, as he also winds up this with his remark. Very briefly, in 3 minutes, we should be out of this place. I thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Victor Gomuka. I'm from Democratic. I work for Action Yes. So we can close this session without addressing conflict and political stability in the Great Lakes region, especially the Eastern Congo. As you know, nowadays we are facing a very critical situation, especially women and youth. Youth are those who are very vulnerable to that situation. As you know, Eastern DRC is facing instability, and it's
community to take lead in all the interventions and subject to research and development and above all, participatory approaches. So I thank you all and wish you a very beautiful evening.
Then you can also scan the code to get the website that we're talking about, Climate Solutions by the People. So just scan the code and then we could also have a group photo with everyone. I know time is running out, but at least having a group photo with everybody would have been amazing. So let's send the front and then have a group photo together. Thank you.